Hi, I'm Mimika Cooney, and welcome to Mimika TV, the place to build a brilliant business. I'm super excited to have today's guest with us today because he's going to be teaching us how to achieve your business brilliance. Brian R. King is a resilience breakthrough coach who works with parents, professionals, and business teams to help them bounce back more quickly in the face of adversity. As a professional workshop facilitator and keynote presenter who's been wowing audiences since he was 17 years old, Brian has become increasingly known for his personal story of resilience in the face of learning and physical disabilities to become a #1 best-selling author and successful entrepreneur. In his popular keynote presentations, Brian reveals key decisions we all must make in order to be consistently successful, regardless of our challenges. So welcome, Brian. Welcome to Mimika TV. I'm so excited to have you here today.
It's an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to see where our conversation takes us.
Exactly. I'm super excited too, because you and I have been conversing in Facebook groups and getting to know each other a little more. And I love a good transformational story, right? Having the whole going from where you are now, from zero to hero, and you sure do have a good story. So give us, our audience, especially those who don't know you, a little bit of a rundown about your story, because you've got a great one.
A little bit of a rundown. Well, I went through school with undiagnosed ADHD and dyslexia and still managed to get my master's degree and write, I think, 4, maybe 5 books before any of this was discovered.
Oh, wow.
I had cancer when I was 18 years old. It was my graduation present from high school. So I spent the summer after graduation in chemotherapy.
Wow.
I got married for the wrong reasons, which many of us do these days. But I managed to have 3 beautiful sons through the course of that marriage, all 3 of whom have Asperger's syndrome, which is a form of autism. They also all 3 also have ADHD, and the younger 2 have the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is the physical disability I have. We just got the youngest one assessed and diagnosed with that yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So, by virtue of my very quirky DNA, my sons have inherited a lot of my challenges. So I spent about 5 seconds feeling sorry for myself and feeling guilty for those things. But then I also have to realize that maybe it isn't fair, but it is the reality. And reality is what we ultimately have to deal with. So them watching me live with these challenges puts me in the position of having to model for them, how do you live fully, happily, and successfully in spite of these challenges? So my #1 audience is my boys.
Yeah, definitely. So you're thinking of your sons first before anybody else, right?
So I have to be congruent. They have to see me in every context being consistent, because hypocrisy is a very poor teacher. So they can't see me doing one thing in one context and being a different person in another. So they need to see that. They need to see that consistency. So they look to dad and say, this is what's possible for me. This is what's possible in life. So that they think abundance instead of limitation.
That's a really good viewpoint, because I think a lot of us could take the whole sort of victim mentality. And I'm sure many of us have stories of where we've had to overcome challenges and in different forms. And I have my own. We could spend all day talking about that, but that's not the whole point. And like you, I've got kids. And I think we have to be so aware of how our behavior and our modeling and our speaking has a real effect on those around us, that they do what we do, not what we say, especially as a parent, right?
Absolutely.
So let's break it down for our audience. Okay, so now we know, all of us, we have these issues, right? And what I find really encouraging about what you said is that you could cry about it for about all of 5 minutes. Tell me why that's important and why you only allow yourself 5 minutes.
Well, I have to acknowledge my initial response, because we have this protective instinct just by virtue of how we're built as human beings. And to deny that that's part of you, you shove it in the background. There's a saying that what you resist persists. So if you shove it in the background, it doesn't mean that it's out of play just because it's out of awareness.
Right.
You still need to acknowledge it and say, okay, I understand why I'm upset. This is a bit of a threat to my status quo. However, it must be dealt with. And the reason I only spend about 5 minutes on it is because wallowing, feeling sorry for yourself changes nothing except the quality of your experience in that moment.
Like you're having a little pity party and you're the only one at the party.
Yeah, exactly. And it gets you nowhere except deeper into that hole. Mm-hmm. So I like to immediately move into action because nothing kicks fear's butt better than action.
Right.
So you need to do something. Yeah, do something that moves you into that solution. Even if it's calling a friend and asking for some support. Not just to vent and have validation of your pity party, but somebody who's going to listen to you and say, okay, let's generate some options. What do we do first? Where's the low-hanging fruit? Something that allows you to take ownership of that experience and start incorporating it into your story, but incorporating it in a very essential way.
Right. So kind of like you're using that as, you said, when you're part of your story. So in other words, that's an elemental part as well. I think a lot of us miss, especially when we're in a business. Say, for instance, if we're talking about business resistance, right? Say, for instance, like, and I've had this more times than I can count, failed launches or something that you put out there doesn't get received. Like you put a podcast out there or you launch a series or a course or book and crickets, right? So you're saying in that moment, you can sit there and have a little pity party, but you want to be able to use that as part of the story. Now, how do you pull in that the failure, for example, as a story part? How do you put the two together?
Well, first of all, you have to make a decision about what failure means. And the decision to make is that failure is feedback. That's it. Okay? Failure isn't a stop sign. It isn't an invitation to quit. It is not a message from the heavens to say, quit while you're ahead. Okay? It's simply feedback that what you did was not effective. That's it.
That's a really good way of looking at it. So in other words, instead of thinking and making it seem like it is going to stop you in your tracks, because I think a lot of us do get there. We almost start feeling bad about ourselves, and then we think, oh, well, I can't do it again. I'm never going to try that again. But that's a really good way of putting it. So you're saying feedback, then you take parts of what you learn and then put it into the next swing.
Because whenever you take any action in life, you get feedback on one or two planes. Did this create the result I wanted, or did it not? Okay, it's not you're brilliant, you're awesome, or you're a piece of garbage. No, that's how people tends to interpret it. But it's solely just a message about the effectiveness of your plan, of your action. That's it. It's not a commentary on the value that you have as a human being, or your competence or your worthiness to succeed. All it really does is say, did this work or not? If it didn't, you take that information and say, what do I need to tweak from my next attempt? I mean, the best example is the toddler, right? Hanging on to things, stumbling along, falling down. They didn't say, well, screw this walking thing. I blew it. I never want to do this again. They say, well, if I let go of the coffee table, I might fall. So when I stand up, I'm going to hang on to this thing for a while. Maybe it'll help me steady myself. But they keep on trucking.
Yeah, nothing's going to stop them, right? Like, do it again, do it again, do it again.
That's a metaphor for life. I mean, we can learn so much from our kids who haven't learned that self-defeating definition of failure. All they know is they want a result, and they're going to keep going until they get it.
Right. So it's kind of having that resilience that it's almost like, I suppose I always like to think of things in metaphors, like you're chopping down a tree, right? And because you take a few swings and it doesn't fall over straight away, it doesn't mean you're going to give up, right? You want to be able to learn and sharpen your axe. So the next time you take a swing and then you try it again. And I think that's where, I mean, I often have, I say to my husband, I have a whole field of half chopped down trees. And now it's about time to stick with one to actually make sure I see it through so I can actually get the result by just swinging at it and swinging at it. So what would you say, like, if we had to break it down for someone, because you talk about the whole resilience. So how do you become more resilient? Because, I mean, we are human, right? We've got emotions. We have feelings, no matter who we are, men or women, and whether you're in a job or, that you have that sort of resistance. So what would your advice be to become more resilient and to beat the resistance?
Well, you already said it yourself. The tree analogy is perfect because in order to chop the tree down, you need to get through the tree. You can't do a little bit above, below, dodge it, deny it, procrastinate. The tree's not coming down until you get through. And that's essentially what resilience is. It's getting through it. And then when you get out the other side, Are you better or are you bitter?
Right.
True resilience is when you come through it wiser. You're not through it yet as long as you're still mad about it.
Right.
So
That's
when
a good
you're
indication. So like you're saying, using emotion as an indicator, like if you're either upset or sad or mad at someone, it means you haven't worked through the problem yet.
and if you're a victim, you sure as heck have not gotten through it. Just because the event has ended, if your processing has not led you to a more humble, grateful, and wiser place, you are not resilient yet. And resilient doesn't mean, and I saw this awful article the other day, somebody saying, resilience isn't all it's chopped up to be. The definition this person used of resilience is that you're the same person you were when you started.
That's a good version of thinking about it.
and it's lousy because we know things change us. They change us for better or for worse. The key to resilience is you come through it better. If you haven't accomplished that, it's not resilience. So the two main criteria is you must get through it. You're not dodging it. You're not delegating it. You're not procrastinating. You're not denying. You're getting through it. And on the other side, you can say, thank you. It was rough. Parts of it positively sucked. It knocked me down for a while. But thank you because of this, this, and this. Without the gratitude, it can't grow you.
That's a tweetable. Without gratitude, you can't grow. Ooh, I need to put that on Instagram. I love that.
And these things tend to come out of me when I'm talking, so I'm glad we're recording this.
All these tweetables and these good ideas. So tell me a bit about okay, so, and of course with your physical disabilities, it's, really, for some people they could say, well, because of this, I can't do that. Tell us a little bit about the thought process when you say you want to try something. And I mean, for all of us, we have obstacles in life, but how do we push through? Do you have like a mental exercise you use? Like, do you give yourself little wins along the way? Like, what would you say, like, even though you know you aren't there yet, how do you keep yourself motivated to continue even when times get tough?
One of my meta belief, my overarching metaphor for my life is that I am on a treasure hunt. Okay. I'm on a treasure hunt for those little pearls of wisdom, for those little chunks of gold, for those little precious moments. And when you think of the gold rush in America, back in the 1800s, they didn't have air-conditioned limos to travel. They didn't even have roads. They had horses and buggies and horrendous terrain with heat and wind and drought and the native peoples, firing at them and scorpions. The ride sucked, and it took months. People died, people got sick, but they kept going. Why? Because in their mind, they envisioned treasure on the other side. There was something worth enduring all the dirt, the grit, the pain. So I think of my life as a treasure hunt. Some days my body is racked with pain. Sometimes my focus is compromised. Sometimes one of my boys has a crisis. But I'm in it for the dirt and the wounds and the muck. Why? Because there's treasure in there. If I keep pushing through this garbage, there's treasure to be found. And I find it every single day. Mm-hmm. So by realizing that getting dirty, getting hurt, getting scraped is part of the treasure hunt, then why be upset about it? Those are the rules. It's part of it.
So it's kind of like, I think as modern society, we've lost that resilience to be able to stick it through, because our forefathers were much more, resilient in terms of pushing through the pain. And I mean, if you think about, like, as you said, sheer travel, like if I think of my ancestors who went from Europe to Africa and recolonized the country, I mean, you think what they had to put up with. I mean, really, nowadays we have it too easy. It's like this instant society. We've got, the likes of easy medication and, the easy outs in marriage, like with the divorce rates. And you think, well, what is wrong that we've now lost that? Is because maybe it is too easy? I know could be a debate that we get into, and there's some people on two sides of the coin who could talk about both sides. But I think in terms of how do we bring that back in what we're doing every day, like as business owners, as parents, is there like a certain mantra that you have, or like a sort of exercise that you do every day that kind of keeps you in that flow that you tell yourself, like maybe affirmations or something? What do you do to keep yourself on track?
I've got two. One thing that I use is, and this is a rule of mine that I taught my boys, Things do not go wrong in life. They just go different. So they go one of two ways. This is the way I intended, or it went different. Okay? Different is a very neutral term. When you think of how we accumulate emotional baggage around certain trigger words, like it was wrong, it was bad, I failed. Okay, so we're not going to use those. We're going to use a new word, different. When you say this went different, there's no emotion to be swelled up. There's no fight or flight to come with it. And different is not bad. It's not wrong. It just is. And it's a lot easier to regroup when you're from that neutral place where your mind is clear, where you're calmer. So if it went different, it's the same as there is no failure, there's only feedback. Okay, it went different. What do these results that we got tell us? How can we use this? And then here's the second part that I learned. All the labels I had, ADHD, dyslexia, Ehlers-Danlos, they're either opportunities to feel disabled, to feel sorry for myself, or they're opportunities to be resourceful. And that's what I tell my boys. Anytime you feel a block, anytime you need to do something differently than everybody else, that's an opportunity to be resourceful, to figure out what people, what other things do I need in order to get the results I want. Not the results everybody else wants, because the idea is not to be like everybody else, to be, quote, normal. That's a nonsense term. The goal is to be resourceful, to get the results I want. So if I want to, I've seen videos, people are very kind on Facebook, they're sharing videos all the time, of people jumping ramps in their sport-equipped wheelchair because they want to be in extreme sports, or people attaching motors to their wheelchair to go faster. One of my colleagues, he's paralyzed from the waist down, and there's a special setup so he can ski.
Oh, wow.
So again, it's being resourceful. It's, well, I can't stand on these things. Maybe there's some way to rig up my wheelchair so I can ski, and he does it. I have no interest in skiing. I will gladly sit off to the side and cheer you on as you dodge one tree after another, but I'm not going to join you.
So kind of pick which way you want to do things, right? And if you think about it, if we didn't get resistance, we wouldn't have invention. Like a lot of the time is if when things were tough, like if you think of the light bulb, how many times Edison had to practice and 1,000 tries before he got that. If he gave up at the first try, we would never have the light bulb. So I think, we need to reframe our thinking in terms of just because we're in modern society and a lot of things have been invented doesn't mean we must lose that sort of mentality, which I think is definitely key to what I'm hearing you say. It's not necessarily, it's the way that you think, because then how you think comes out your mouth. And then it's the way that you reframe things. Right. So that's some great exercises.
One thing that's really important to understand about resistance is every time you stand, you're moving against the resistance of gravity. When you're outside and it's windy, you're moving against the resistance of the wind. There's one thing that resistance does beautifully, and it builds muscle. Okay? So if you are lifting weights to build up your muscles, it's that resistance that builds your muscle. If you have things that create psychological or emotional resistance, it builds that muscle. So again, resistance is an opportunity to be resourceful. What do you need to do in order to build the muscle to withstand that resistance? Because once you become more resilient in life, there are certain things that can show up and you'll be like, I've done this before. In other words, there's no longer resistance to that because you've built the necessary muscle.
Yeah.
The necessary resourcefulness to keep going and get through it. The things that tend to land on your plate that really kick your butt, that's an opportunity to build the necessary muscle by getting the right resources so that this is no longer a problem for you.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think there's some really key aspects there that you've mentioned where, it's about getting the right mindset and thinking of it, as from a different perspective instead of like taking failure and think it's a stop street, which brings us into the point that, which is a great segue into our giveaway. So for those who are listening, this is your chance to earn our goodie giveaway that Brian has kindly donated. And he is giving away a $225 hour of real REAL coaching. So if you find that just you feeling a little stuck or you need a little egg along the way and you need some help there, this is your chance. So we talked about failure a little earlier, and for those who, the first person who can type the answer to this, what does Brian consider failure? He doesn't consider it stopping you something. Yes, exactly. David was the first one.
Man,
Failure
he was
is
right there on the
feedback.
money.
He was on it, right? He's got it. Failure is feedback. And that is an awesome tweetable. I'm going to have to tweet that. So let me just do here. Congrats. So how would you like David to get in touch with you? Should he direct message you on Facebook or Twitter?
Right, he can do either way. I mean, my direct email address is brian@brianrkingintl, which is short for international. Or find me on Twitter, find me on Facebook, David, and we will get you on my schedule.
That's awesome. Well, congrats. And I'd love to get some feedback from the feedback to see how that all goes. But I know that that would be great. And I think a lot of us, another thing I have to mention is I'm sure a lot of us don't even want to mention or make it visible. We always want to, especially on social media, right? Oh, it's fabulous. It's wonderful. And I'm so successful and I'm doing it so great. A lot of us don't really want to face up and tell it like it is, right? That it's actually hard sometimes, that running a business and having it all together, I don't think any of us have it together. So I think what I love about these Facebook groups, and I'm sure you'd agree, Brian, is people are being a lot more, taking off the masks and being a lot more real. Like, hey, I'm having a hard time with this. How do I get over that? And that's why I think having a coach or a mentor is so important for someone like Brian and the services that you offer, especially as entrepreneurs. We get so much in our heads that it's great to have a fresh set of eyes look at your situation and give you a little step up to really help you feel like you can break through. And, I've had this exact experience the last couple of weeks with someone that I met. She's now become a good friend, and I would consider her a mentor too. She's helped me push past that, that sticky part where you just can't get through the next level. So I've got to say, I so appreciate that. So thank you so much for donating that. I'm sure, David, you'll have a super fun time with Brian there. He's going to give you some more info. So we've covered a lot of aspects. If we had to narrow it down to one takeaway tip, what would you say to the audience, Brian, as a wrap up you want them to remember?
The one takeaway tip, it's kind of in the acronym for my coaching, REAL. Resilience, enlightened, authentic leadership. Okay? We are a walking role model for everybody watching us and seeing the results that we get. Someone's going to look at us and say, I like the results he's getting. I want to follow him. In that moment, you are a leader. A leader isn't someone who stands on a podium. It isn't somebody who wins all these awards or has a PhD. It's somebody that creates results. The authenticity is, it's not important to make the world think that you have no chinks in your armor and that you have it all together. People need to watch you fall, but not stay down. People need to watch you struggle, but keep moving forward. When I get on social media, people see my warts, welts, scars, but I emphasize, this is how I got knocked down today, and this is what I'm going to do about it. It's not, like you said before, I'm so successful, nothing can hurt me, everything is Shangri-La. I do not buy into that nonsense, and I don't think that I ever will. People says, hey, Brian, you should make it sound like everything's going great. Hey, sometimes I have money struggles. Sometimes I have issues maintaining patience with my kids, but I don't stay there.
All right.
I look at those moments as an opportunity to learn and grow. So, big takeaway, be human. People are looking for role models of how to just be human, how to have all of your emotions, how to have all of your falls, feedback, and keep moving forward. But pay close attention to which of those you celebrate. Do you celebrate being miserable? Do you celebrate having a terrible day? Or do you say, you know what, today was rough, but now I'm going to spend some time with my family. Now I'm going to watch my favorite show and laugh.
Okay, well, before we end it up, I know we've got like 5 minutes left, so I'm going to open up the seat. Mike, do you want to hop on real quick? You can ask Brian one question. I do like to make sure we keep our shows within the 40-minute mark, because this will be put on our iTunes and put on our podcast. But yeah, let's see, we keep Mike to join us. Michael, welcome, Mike. What question do you have for Brian?
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning to you, Michael.
How are you?
The pain meds are working great today.
You and I are kindred spirits.
I'm always grateful to have more kindred spirits.
I am a speaker in Canada. I go around and I speak to industry about how to handle people like you and I.
That is fantastic. If you ever need me to haul your luggage, let me know.
Hey, if you ever need anybody to back you up, let me know. I love what you do. You
Thanks.
are absolutely phenomenal.
Wow.
Some of the thoughts you have are just blowing me away. You have it all together.
Wow. You have just made my day, Michael.
You are absolutely incredible.
Well, that is some great encouragement, right? Brian, how's that makes today? And this is why we do what we do, is to help other people.
Yeah, the check's in the mail, Michael.
I'm always willing to take money, especially American money.
That is super sweet. Well, I'm going to say, I mean, we have to wrap up in a minute, but I really appreciate you coming online, Michael. Definitely connect with Brian. You know, I think you guys, you would really do well. You could help get him to the next level and give him as many tips. Are you following Brian online? Well, I know you said you are. You're doing his show, and I think he's got some great great insights there too that you can really add there.
Michael, we definitely need to stay in touch, man.
And have a look at my website too. My website is michaeldhaines.com.
michaeldhaines.com.
I will look you up, sir.
Definitely. I redesigned my website. In fact, I just finished it on Monday, and I'm really proud of it. It's looking incredible. So I'm really proud of it. Have a great day, Brian. Keep up
you too, Michael.
Keep up the good work.
You can count on it.
Exactly. Well, thanks for joining us, Michael. I'm going to say I really appreciate you guys and the support. How is that for some encouragement and some props, right? We've got to definitely make sure we give Brian some props. And I think I have to say, with your mission and you inspiring so many people out there, I'm going to say thank you so much for joining us here on Mimika TV. And I think it's for people like Michael that we're inspired to do what we do, right? So I'm just going to talk that. So tell our audience, how can we get in touch with you? What's the best place to find you?
Go straight to my website, which is brianraymondking.com.
Was it brianrking.com?
Brian, no? my middle name, Raymond.
Okay, so let me type it in here so we can have it in the links section. Did I get it right? Yep.
Got it.
Perfect. So definitely reach out to Brian and make sure to follow him on Twitter. He has his own show and blab. And if you like the content you had today on Mimika TV, click to subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends. Please do click on the Tell a Little Bird and share our great content. And we need to share these messages and get more people like Brian sharing their message and their mission with the world. And if you want more help and resources that I only share with my newsletter community, I currently have a 5-day video challenge. So if you're watching this and you're a little scared to get on video, I've got some great tips going to help you get started with video. Make sure to go to my website, mimikacooney.com. I'm just going to put the link in the comment section. And that's mimikacooney.com for our resources. And I'd love to see you on Blab. When is your show, Brian? Tell us, when do you have yours?
Oh, it doesn't air at the same time. I'm kind of all over the place. I am very flexible with my guests, but you'll usually get maybe 3 to 5 episodes out of me a week.
Oh, wow. Good. You're cranking them out. I tell you, I'm stepping it up too. This Blab has just totally changed the way I do things. I can do more of them more often. And reaching out with more great like-minded people like you just makes it totally awesome. So I'm going to say thanks to everyone for joining us. We're just about out of time, but thanks everyone for joining us. Make sure to share it with your friends and watch subscribe to both Brian and my channels. We do this often. And even if you can recommend a guest, I'd love to know who you would like to hear from. We love to hear from like-minded great thinkers. So thanks again for joining us, Mimika TV. Until next time, take care.